Woo! 2-0, baby. 2-0. Welcome back, everybody. What is going on? Welcome back to the Celtics Stock Weekly Postgame Show, guys. Summer League Game 2 against the New York Knicks. A little second-round matchup in Vegas here for the Boston Celtics. Goes in the favor of the good guys. 94-81 is your final score from Vegas Game 2. Guys, welcome back. I am your host, Rob Haytayan. Joined with me are our two co-hosts, Seamus, Zarlingo, and Griffin Aldridge. Joining us shortly will be Nick Franco. He had a little cooler full of fish fiasco he had to go handle, but he will be joining us as well here in just a minute. Guys, the Celtics, good vibes are rolling here out in Vegas, right? 2-0, another impressive, solid win from the young guys here. You guys know the drill. Celtics, it's a win. We give our initial thoughts, guys. Where you at? Thoughts, takeaways, opinions on another Celtics win.
Seamus, you want to lead it off?
Well, Griffin, I mean, this is kind of your spotlight here. We got a lot of guys from Maine out in Vegas. Right? I feel like this is where you shine, Griffin. Take the stage.
I guess I have to take this stage. Well, you said it right there, Seamus. I mean, I cover a lot of Maine Celtics basketball, and there's a lot of guys on that team that are going to be playing Maine Celtics basketball too up in the upcoming season for the Maine Celtics. But I will say a name that probably won't be on that Maine Celtics roster, and that's Charles Bassey. I couldn't say his name for a second. Sorry. I was thinking of, the fish that you were talking about.
I messed up Max Shugla, or I can't even say it.
Max Shulga.
Shulga and Bassey. Shulga and Bassey. The next Cornets.
At least you didn't have an incident on Instagram where you spelled his name wrong. That was my bad. Sorry about that.
I've been there. Don't worry. I've been there.
No, but it works. It works. But ultimately, I feel like what an incredible performance. And I'm sorry, I'm going to steal your guys' takes for later because I know you guys are going to say it. But, I mean, we can see him on the Celtics roster. Let's just say it right now. I mean, his past two performances, hands down, he is an incredible player. And he is one that if the Celtics don't have him on at least a two-way contract, at least a two-way contract, then they're thinking crazy because this is a guy who should get, and I think could even, the way he's playing might be the best option we have at the center position. So he's incredible, but ultimately I saw a lot of great things. I saw a lot of great things from Baylor Shireman, and I want to quote one thing that Brad Stevens said about Baylor too, is he said, it's not like, don't go out there and be the superstar, because he knows Baylor. I feel like this. Baylor is more than capable to go out there and, give it a 30-piece potentially, because he went out there and he was shooting stuff from the logo. I mean, he was on fire. But Brad Stevens said, go out there and play your game. Play the game that you're going to play up for the Celtics. And that's what he did tonight. He had a great performance. And then another person I really wanted to highlight too, who he might not get a lot of flowers because I feel like he's a guy that will play for the Maine Celtics. And I actually saw him match up against the Maine Celtics, and that's Kendall Brown. I am pretty big on Kendall Brown, as he's a guy where he might be like, last year I want to compare him to a Ron Harper Jr., where Ron Harper Jr. got a two-way contract with the Pistons. This is a guy where I don't know where his future is with the Celtics, but he's a guy that I could see him, playing in Maine for a little bit and then potentially getting a two-way contract somewhere else, or even an NBA contract. I feel like he's a guy that could give you a lot. And then another guy, Jalen Bridges. I mean, he's a guy where there's a lot at stake for him too, as Brad. I don't know if Brad Stevens mentioned this, but I heard that there's a potential that he could be competing for a roster spot, and he's going to get not a roster spot because we have 15 roster spots, but he's a guy where they're interested in him. Like they are interested in Bridges, and that was known from the get-go, like bringing him in. He's a guy that they're going to keep a close eye on. So tonight's performance was big for his sake as well. But overall, I mean, you're starting off the season 2-0. You got your little revenge on the Knicks. Obviously, it's summer league, but it's a little something. You got your win against Anton Watson, the former Celtic out there. But you did something impressive. And I feel like tonight's win, obviously for the Celtics, it a lot of Celtics fans are down and hurt about the season and how it's going, but this kind of shines a little light on it, and it shows, look, we have some young assets down here, we really do. I mean, with Amari Williams, Max Shulga, and Miles Norris, didn't get to see him play, but you have some guys that are your two-way players, and Baylor Shireman and Jordan Walsh, who are young players and could give a little shine in, for the Boston Celtics. And obviously Charles, like he's another guy too that you're going to see up there, but hopefully fingers crossed, but I no doubt. But ultimately you see a lot of young talent, and it's not only going to be fun for the Celtics, and I wouldn't say fun, but you're going to see in a retooling year, as Brad Stevens called it as well when the interview was going, it's going to be interesting to say the least. And my final take is Kenny Lofton Jr. I mean, he's a guy that I will see him in Maine. And geez, I mean, I don't think he's used to U.S. basketball again, because I think he might have had too much time eating over there and overseas. I look, I can say it because I'm big too. But I mean, geez, he's like I don't even know, but he, it was rough watching him, and I will say I like Kenny Lofton Jr. I hope because he's coming to Maine. I'm ready.
A hot start, fellas. Welcome back.
Yeah,
welcome to Celtics Talk Weekly Summer League Edition. Folks.
Well, I'm embracing.
Any thoughts on Niang too, Griffin? On that end?
No. That was our talk we had with Niang. I love Niang. He was actually in attendance today. If you guys didn't know, he was in attendance.
I saw that. Yes.
You think Niang and Kenny Lofton could maybe get together in training camp and go through a little regiment together, right?
No,
on the treadmill a little bit.
Right. At least my take though wasn't as bad as what they said. They were like, "Oh yeah, he's like 275, and that's generous." And I was like, "Whoa, way to call a man out like that." That was
Brennan Haywood. That's what he said.
That was uncalled for. But no, I'm excited to see him come in Maine, because I feel like he's another player. Like I already said too with Kendall Brown, and I feel like Isaiah Wong, he didn't have a great game today. They were honestly playing very great defense against Isaiah Wong, but he's another guy who I see kind of in the realm with Kendall Brown that could get a two-way contract. I feel like they're going to be in Maine. But I'm saying this too with Kenny Lofton Jr. too. He's another guy, if he could really like get his feet right and really figure it out, because he's lost out there. Let's get it right. He's a little lost out there, Doesn't look like what we expected from Kenny Lofton Jr., but he's a guy who, if he gets his feet wet too in Maine, he could get a two-way contract.
What were you expecting?
I don't know, but ultimately, great win. Obviously there's a little, you can nitpick it for sure, but I'm excited to see a lot of those guys in Maine. Like, it's going to be fun. It's a fun group to watch right now. And can we safely say this, that we might be bracing for a Summer League championship? I'm just saying.
Undefeated.
I hope so.
Undefeated. Gotta keep working. And shout out to Cooper Flagg, because I haven't talked about him in a minute. He was in attendance too. So thank you for coming to support the Celtics. I say that from Maine. But that's my.
I had that last on my list, Griffin. I was going to bring it up at the end for you, but I just knew I knew Griffin was going to bring it up at the beginning. Forget the end. He was going to bring it up at the beginning that Cooper Flagg was in the gym to watch his future team in the Boston Celtics.
Yes. Well, may I future team? Thank you, Seamus. Thank you.
Well, that's your own words from your own podcast.
I agree. Well, may I say though, I told Daniel that I would shut up about Cooper Flagg, but it connects to the Celtics. He was in attendance, so I have to say it. I have to say it. So he was in attendance. So
you got at least like a 4-month pass being a Mainer, getting to talk about Cooper.
Yeah,
Flagg.
I get 4.
There's a pass. There's a pass.
Well, I told him though. I said I'll stop flashing the graphics, and then I was like, "Oh, should I find a graphic of Cooper Flagg in attendance today?" And I'm like, "No, let's not do that."
We'll make you a good Cooper Flagg Celtics jersey swap. You can hang it up on your wall.
Yeah, get that signed and then flash it in here. Hey, Cooper Flagg, check it out, a jersey swap. Well, we will definitely get one of those when when JT comes back, because that's his idol. So we'll definitely get one with him and Tatum. So we gotta brace ourselves. At least in Maine, we gotta brace ourselves.
We do.
But enough Cooper Flag talk, because he's done for Summer League. Been shut down. 62 minutes in his first two games. Yep. Well, yep. Try to put it away for the offseason, all right, or at least the preseason, right? Training camp. But back to the Celtics and Knicks game here today. The Celtics, I feel as if they actually have one of the better Summer League squads out there. There are a couple of players on the Celtics Summer League squad that I look at and go, they could be on the roster next season, legitimately playing legitimate minutes. I mean, you mentioned a couple of them there, Griffin, one in Baylor Shireman, one in Charles Bassey. You see Jordan Walsh on the roster. We'll have a conversation about him later. But some of those players you think, could maybe slot their way into a rotation this year. The Knicks, they didn't really have any of those players. I didn't really see any bucket getters on the Knicks. I didn't see guys on the Knicks who are very creative, and I didn't see a lot of intuitiveness on the Knicks, especially on the offensive end of the floor. They have a couple of guys who can defend well, a couple of guys who are long, athletic, can rebound, but their offensive skill sets just aren't quite there. And I just felt like the Knicks were a discombobulated group of guys, whereas the Celtics, they were a little bit more versatile. I mean, I think the entire Celtics Summer League roster is pretty versatile. Looking at all of the guards, looking at the wings, looking at the bigs, they're all players who can play multiple positions. We've seen a couple of times out there the Celtics run out two big lineups. We've seen them throw out multiple guards within a lineup, 3 guards in a lineup, because some of those guards can play more of a wing position, and some of those bigs can play more of a wing position, and even some of the wings, they can play a little bit bigger. And I think the Celtics, you look at these two Summer League squads, there was just a lot more versatility for the Celtics involved in this game, and that's why the Celtics were able to dominate this game throughout, because the Celtics, they dominated in the second chance points category, and it felt like a game where the Knicks just never should have been in the game at any point, because the offensive opportunities for the Knicks, they just weren't there. The Celtics were hounding them on the defensive end of the floor, and then meanwhile, offensively, although the Celtics didn't shoot the ball particularly well, especially from 3, the Celtics shot 18.5% from 3. They shot 5 of 27 from the floor. Despite the Celtics not coming up with too great of a shooting line, they rebounded the ball well today and got to the free throw line a lot. I mean, both the fouls, that's another conversation for later in the show. The fouls today, 31 58. Fouls for the Celtics, 27 for the Knicks.
58 fouls combined.
Refs were in mid-season form, that's for sure.
That is why these Summer League games take forever, by the way. I mean, I don't want to say they take forever, because the thing I look at it, 12-minute quarters, that's what it is in the regular season. It's 10-minute quarters in Summer League. You naturally think, oh, well, Summer League games should be a little bit shorter, right? No, they're the same amount of time, because each player out on the floor is allowed up to 10 fouls before they're ejected. So it's not 5, it's not 6, it's 10. And you see the foul number here today. I mean, some of the fouls are just crazy. I mean, you have 8 fouls for Kevin McCullough Jr., you have 5 fouls for Huck Porty on the Knicks side. And then the Celtics, you look over at them. I know Jordan Walsh, he racked up quite a few fouls today. And it was really a collective, it was a collective effort when it came to the fouls. 7 fouls for Jordan Walsh.
Yeah. 7.
And you had 1, 2, 3, 4 players with 4 fouls. So just the fouling is outrageous. There's another conversation to be had. I wonder if the NBA should actually implement some more, like I'm not about more free throws, but maybe a little bit more aggression on defense if players are allowed more fouls. Just saying. But to me, the hand check is still around. It's just taught. It's just taught to the general public. Oh, we don't allow hand checking, and that's been eradicated from the game since the 1990s. It still goes on. You watch the film. I mean, guys are touching each other all the time when they shouldn't be. But ultimately, back to this game, I mean, the Celtics, the way they were able to win was, again, activity on defense. We saw it in game 1. Come on, Griffin, come back into the stream. Come back here. Come on.
I was coughing.
I don't want to see any laughing right now. I don't want to see any laughing. I don't want to see any laughing here. But regardless, the Celtics today, it was about activity on defense yet again. We saw it in game 1. Game 2, it was evident yet again. And even without 2 of the better defenders on the team, one in Hugo Gonzalez and then another in Miles Norris, who both missed today's game against the Knicks. The Celtics were able to defend, force the turnovers, and they were able to dominate in the second chance points category, and they just play as a collective unit. I don't see any player standing out on the Celtics as our prime time bucket getter. This is the player we're going to, right? You think about the Mavericks, right? Clearly, the two players the Mavericks are going to right now, or at least were in their first two Summer League games, was Cooper Flagg and Ryan Nembhard, right? The Celtics don't really have a player they're going, oh, we're feeding this guy and letting him go one-on-one and create his own opportunities, whether that's for other players or even for himself. The team plays a little bit more collectively out there. And I think that's what's impressive about this Celtics Summer League team is they're playing as a group of players who are ready to take on the role of role players later on down the line. And there's no teaching within Summer League right now of any of these guys being a guy within the rotation, somebody who's going to be a little bit more selfish with the ball, demand a little bit more usage. We think about a couple of years ago, that was our question when it came to Carson Edwards and Peyton Pritchard. There was so much usage with those guys in Summer League, and it wasn't necessarily going to translate to the regular season. Now there are a bunch of guys on the Celtics Summer League roster who that's not necessarily the story. We don't have a main dominant ball handler who's creating every single action on the floor. It's more of a collective unit. Yes, we have, our I would say Max Shulga. He's been a pretty solid point guard up to this point in time, but nobody who's out there scoring like Jason Tatum or Jaylen Brown. And I think that's what's also putting this Celtics Summer League squad into the conversation of could they win the Summer League title? It's not out of the realm of possibilities for this roster.
Well, can I ask? I know Ugo had some rolled his ankle or whatever. I know that's kind of why he wasn't there tonight. But do you guys know why Miles Norris was? Was it same kind of? Did he was banged up a little bit or?
Well, I couldn't. I that's what I was trying to find on.
I couldn't see anything
on Twitter, which I'm obviously in the Summer League
shot
here.
He did warm-ups.
It's not as it's not as reported. Like the Summer League injury report is certainly not as reported as the regular season. So, okay, so this is what just came out from Jay King 13 minutes ago. Matt Reynolds said Ugo Gonzalez and Miles Norris will both play again tomorrow after a rest day today. So it was a rest day for Miles Norris and Ugo Gonzalez. And I don't know anything about Gonzalez's ankle, but this is definitely a rest spot, right? Cox Pavilion, Knicks, game 2, back to back. We're back to it, folks. We're officially back in
mid-season form.
Can we give it to?
We're in mid-season form. This is a back-to-back. Players aren't playing. That's what it is yet again.
Well, can we give it to Miles Norris then? Can we say he has a left
big toe?
Left thumb.
He's got his toe. His toe.
Yeah, big toe is
change it up a little more. We got
right. We gotta.
So left thumb, maybe left
thumb contusion, perhaps. I don't know.
Do we go with Miles Norris or do we go with Ugo?
What are you talking about?
Do we? What one do we give it to?
Miles Norris. No, Ugo gets the ankle. You already gave him the ankle.
The ankle, yeah, that's gonna be Ugo's.
So those are the. But to disclaim, rest day for both of these players,
which is nuts. Yeah. You just got drafted and you're 19. Come on, get out there and play. But
I know.
But no, I want to add to here before we head off to Franco. For me, today was the Bassey show yet again. We're gonna get into it more, but it's hard not for me to be my takeaway of this game is Charles Seamus. We talked about this last post game show, and it was in the Summer League, the real NBA guys stand out, right? There's the rookies, right? But the real guys that belong in the league, they stand out and they dominate. It's just what they do. There's the talent disparity in these games are too, you got guys up here, you got guys down there. It's just they're too big for those guys who are league talented to not show out. Bassey's showing it, right? That is exactly what we said and is exactly what he's showing. I also thought Shireman and more so Shireman, he's getting to his spots. The shot's not falling. I'm not worried about that. I know they'll fall. He's a shooter. He showed us in the regular season. I'm more so happy I'm seeing him get to his shot. And then also in terms of the team aspect, I agree with your take, Seamus. Honestly, the Celtics kind of just look like a complete team out there in the summer league. It's like you kind of got like these. You got Color to junior Kevin Color, I believe his name was on New York. Who was like their McCullough. Sorry, Kevin McCullough. Thank you. Who was their star guy? He gave him 30, but like we don't have that. But we don't really have that. We're not really playing through one guy, and I'm pretty impressed with what I'm seeing. I'm gonna go out here and say that we do have rostered guys on this team that we'll see. Bassie is showing me it. Shireman showing me it. Walsh we're gonna have a conversation about later. I don't want to start on him quite yet, but there are some talents that Celtics are showing me. And I will say, to Celtics fans, these games are worth watching. Like, last year, the year before, I myself took a pass, right? I could give you a pass. These games, right? You're not really going to see much out of the team or one particular player. This year, these games are worth watching. The talent that we're seeing from this team, there is talent there that I expect to make for these guys to make on the core roster. I assume we'll see how it goes. Obviously, 3 more games left at the minimum, but from what I'm seeing, a couple guys have stood out to me.
Yeah, there's a lot that you can take away from these summer league games as seeing these players out on the court, but from the games within themselves, they don't carry too much substance. Watching tonight's game, you see 58 fouls on the court from both sides, from both teams, and there was a lot of ugly play. Obviously, New York was kind of showcasing that they aren't a team that really is a developed team through the rookies and bringing up players through the summer league and bringing in guys through the G League and slowly bringing people up into their rotation. But we saw it from the Celtics on the opposite end that we have a lot of valuable and interesting players on this roster. If you are looking at this team, this is a pretty good look at who those extra players are going to be when the Celtics go up to 24 players on their roster, I believe, during training camp. You're going to be seeing a lot of these guys who are on this summer league team, especially Charles Bassie, and we'll get into him more as we'll highlight his stats from tonight. But he is a player that could potentially be the best big man on the Celtics roster in general, not just let alone the summer league, because of the amount of players that they lost, losing Luke, Porzingis, and Al, and trying to replace that with Tillman, Keita, and Garza is a very tall task for those players. And Charles Bassie, if you look at him down the stat line and go through his year-to-year basis, he is much more seasoned than anyone that we have on the Celtics. He has actually registered valuable minutes for teams in the past, for San Antonio, for Philadelphia, and I believe there was another one. But he is a player that could be intriguing for the Celtics to look into being a compatible player in this rotation, let alone but in the summer league. But one of the major things that I pulled from this game was the Brad Stevens cameo we got during the second half or second quarter of today's game, and there was a lot of pressing things. And one of the things that he highlighted was watching these guys out on the court as potential players on their roster moving forward. And there are developmental pieces. Most of these guys that are on the court will be the stars of tomorrow, or not the stars of tomorrow, but potentially, but more in the Celtics and Knicks standpoint, the rotation players of tomorrow, and are bringing a lot of potential value. And when the Celtics are talking about getting under the second apron, and you're seeing showing out from and performances from Walsh and Shireman, that puts a little bit of pressure on who knows? Maybe we can rely on these younger guys and continue to shave down that salary on the tax apron because they're still over that second apron.
Right. So, I'm with you. I like that point you made about the rotation players because again, I mean, I might be a broken record. Fair warning, anybody watching into U3. I'm going to be a broken record. These guys, Bassie is a rotation guy for the Celtics. There are rotation pieces on this team, so I'm going to be a broken record. I like that. I like how we're kind of highlighting that. Guys, let's take a hop into the lead tracker tonight. And the Sea of Green, it has made its return once again. I am a happy man. I'm a simple man. All I want out of these games are the Sea of Green. It's not too much to ask for. Celtics, they did it tonight, guys. How about a little wire-to-wire win? Is that what I'm seeing out of the Boston Celtics? What's the rule here? Because it was tied. Is that not wire-to-wire? Like, have we lost that?
I believe this is wire-to-wire. This when you don't give up
every
the
game
lead,
starts tied.
Right.
Okay. Yeah, that's when you put it like that.
That's a good point.
That's a great point right there. That's yeah. So
and especially it wasn't tied after the start of the game. You look at that too. It was never tied after the start of the game. Like it was tied at the beginning of the game, but never tied throughout the rest of the game. Right.
Okay. So we're going to label it wire to wire. Celtics again, largely the night they led by as many as 20. Knicks never held the lead. The game was never tied once Boston took that lead over, guys. Again, the Celtics, we kind of talked about it. They kind of just outclassed the New York Knicks here in the summer league. They just had a little bit more cohesion, and it showed out on the lead tracker, guys. So for you, how did the C's pull this win off, right? You talk about, yes, it's summer league, but there are still X's and O's to this win. And again, we're looking at some guys here that could be impactful for the C's. So how were they able to take down the Knicks in commanding fashion?
Well, this was kind of a flip the script type of performance from the playoffs, right? And obviously the playoffs didn't include any of the same players or characters out there, but just felt like the Celtics were a little bit more aggressive, a little bit more physical than the Knicks. And the skill for the Celtics was much higher than what was presented out there on the floor of the Knicks. And I kind of went over that in initial thoughts, but it's just true. On the offensive end of the floor for the Knicks, first of all, I am a little concerned for Tyler Kolek's career. Not a great performance at Summer League today whatsoever for Tyler Kolek. And he's supposed to be a guy who is manning the offense for the New York Knicks. And today, 1 of 13 from the floor, 0 of 6 from 3. Only 3 points on the afternoon, and he was a minus 25. And what's stark about that is you have Kolek, who was a minus 25 in 29 minutes. In 29 minutes, he was a minus 25. You have Dadier, who was a minus 17 in 18 and a half minutes. And then you have a minus 12 for Kevin McCullough Jr., who was 10 of 15 with 30 points today for the New York Knicks. Now, he was the one standout performer for the Knicks. However, in 27 minutes for him, nearly 28 minutes, he's a minus 12. Everyone else is pretty tame. They're all in the minus category, but they're all in single digits, and they're fairly tame. Yet you look at specifically Kolek and McCullough and Dadier, and Kolek, he's a minus 25. And I understand that's not the end all be all, but the fact he was supposed to be a premier player on this Knicks Summer League roster, and he performed in this manner today and came up with the line which he did, and just looking at the film too, wasn't comfortable with the ball at turnover wise. Let's see how many turnovers Kolek. He came up with 4 turnovers today, 6 for Kevin McCullough Jr. Just nobody on the Knicks offense looked particularly great. And there were coming into this game, I thought, could there be maybe a little bit of a defensive step back with Hugo Gonzalez out of the lineup, because Gonzalez, he was a pretty pesky defender in game 1. There was no defensive drop off for the Celtics whatsoever today. There are a lot of versatile defenders on the Boston Celtics, and the activity and the positioning of every single defender is fairly good for the Celtics at this stage for themselves and at Summer League. And that's what I look at from this Celtics Summer League roster, and that's what I take away from this roster. Other than the apparent NBA talent on the roster, I look at their ability to defend and go, well, that's a roster that could potentially go a little bit farther in this tournament than a roster like the Knicks that just doesn't seem to have the all-around skill set, whether it's on the offensive end of the floor or defensive end of the floor. And It was, again, the active defense today for the Celtics really won this game, and I really thought the physicality within the Celtics too. And I mentioned it in initial thoughts as well. The collectivity of the team. Nobody is unselfish on the Celtics summer league team. I feel as if we watch other teams across the league play at summer league. There are a couple of them out there who are pretty unselfish, like the Celtics, but there are a lot of guys out there who are trying to get theirs, trying to get a roster spot, and trying to show who they are in terms of being a scorer. Well, there's nobody on the Celtics Summer League roster who's trying to implement themselves in this way, or in that way rather. And that's what I think makes this roster good, is just the collectivity and the unselfishness of the roster. And that's what a lot of these guys are going to need if they're ever going to play in the Celtics rotation, whether it's next season or even forget next season, well into the future with Brown and Tatum. So today, I thought another great showing for the Celtics Summer League roster. Of course, there's going to be hiccups along the way offensively. It doesn't always look great. The timing is off. Defensively, there are some we saw a couple of moments out there, miscommunication issues. There are always going to be those type of issues at Summer League, but overall, from what you would expect from the Celtics Summer League roster, I would say they're doing pretty well here in Vegas. And of course, anytime you can go 2-0 in competition, that's what you want to achieve at the end of the day.
Yeah, they're looking very solid as a team right now. As I said before, you have a lot of established players on this team that have played minutes within or not on a Celtics roster, but for rosters elsewhere, as in Jalen Bridges and Bassey, Wong, and Lofton. These are four guys that have played valid minutes on other teams and have been deemed rotational players in the past. So you are tying that in with the young developmental talent that you have in Shireman, Walsh, Gonzalez, who is out tonight, and Amari Williams and Shulga. You are looking at a team that has a very solid amount of depth to it, and you're starting to even see contributions from the other guys that you wouldn't find too notable. Or well, Kendall Brown is also a notable name. You're not really seeing much out of the Ben Greggs, the Aaron Scotts, and the Hayden Grays just yet, but as the play or summer league continues to roll on, I'm sure they'll start to get implemented here and there more often in the rotation. But from what I'm seeing, you are looking at a this is a very promising look for Brad Stevens as he sat in the seats and watched today's game, because you are looking at a very active competition when you have unsurety and insecurity at the bottom end of your roster. When you're looking at players like Xavier Tillman, you need to look at these guys like Bassey and be able to say Bassey could outcompete him in the training camp when we get around to it, or during the preseason, and we could easily move on from that contract. Players like Sam Hauser, however, he listed Sam Hauser as a listed contract, but I feel like a listed contract that he sees as a valuable player and a part of the foundation of this team, which I am disagreeing with, as we've seen these younger players start to perform more. Yes, Hauser has shown that he is a productional player within the NBA, but when you look at what the Celtics are going for next year, adding keeping Sam Hauser around is almost redundant, and also doesn't really. The Celtics are looking for versatility, and that's what you see out of the Celtics Summer League roster. But you look at Sam Hauser, it's not a player that I can see being a versatile player. So these guys are having an open shot to in an open audition in front of these key marquee players and also management to make a name for themselves and potentially make a push to make the Celtics roster. But on the Knicks end of things, they're not looking very fruitful within the farm system, as you would say, if you were looking at it from a baseball standpoint. If you want to consider the summer league the farm league, but it's looking at what they have. doesn't seem like they have anything promising, and there's not too much to expect from the New York Knicks. So the Celtics should be able to handle business within this game, but being able to see the depth and this team play in synchronization and with a little bit of chemistry, as well as bringing a tenacity on the defensive end and really bringing 100% of intensity onto the court is what the Celtics need, because these guys aren't just playing in summer league games right now. They are playing more for their a potential job with the Boston Celtics. Well, New York is kind of less of a weighted summer league, and we kind of experienced that as we've covered the summer league. This is my third summer league with Celtics Talk Weekly, so Justin and I were covering it last year, and we were looking at players like Valerio Bodon and players that you can't even recognize as valuable pieces. However, they may have went on to find success on a G League roster elsewhere, but no one from the past couple of years has been really of note. And it was kind of, you were seeing Walsh and Shireman starting to be in their rookie year, and you were just getting the first looks and first glance of what they could do for this team. But now that they're settled in, you're starting to see these guys become what the Celtics are hoping them to be.
Yeah, I mean, it looked like a team that needs to put thought into what their roster looks like versus a team that really doesn't need to, right? Like the Knicks kind of have like this established group of 9-10 guys that are going to be in their rotation where, bearing injury, like they got their core, right? Versus the Celtics are a team that literally probably have their top four hunkered down with Simons, maybe not, Brown, White. Like arguably there's two, right? Arguably it's Jaylen Brown or three, Jaylen Brown, Derek White, and Peyton Pritchard, right? And then the rest are kind of question marks. And that's where I think Brad Stevens did a good job constructing this roster to add talent that can potentially perform when you go into the actual the big leagues, we can call it. I like that little farm system analogy you made. But yeah, in terms of like that, I think that's what it is. That was the biggest, like, how did the Celtics win? It's like the Celtics should have won this game, right? The Knicks are kind of like a group of just thrown together guys that they probably wasn't much thought into, versus the Celtics are a group of, well thought out guys, and a team full of players where I think management actually took the time to do their research and homework on, and to really kind of dissect, okay, where are holes on our roster that need to be filled, where's talent, where can we add talent on the back end of this roster? I think that's what they did. So for you guys, though, kind of nitpicking and diving deeper into it, who was your standout? Maybe it's one guy, maybe it's a couple guys. Obviously there's an obvious answer, right? I hate to break the ice here, Charles Bassey. He was yesterday, Seamus, we talked about, he's probably gonna be tonight's, but is there anyone else? Is there Bassey? I mean, who's the standout guy or guys for you?
Let's do the Charles Bassey segment right now, because
okay. No, this is a great
we can't
segue.
bury the headline. We can't bury the headline because we're talking
player
about
of the game. The Celtics Talk Weekly player of the game.
Yeah, he was good.
And the Celtics Talk Weekly player of the game. All right, the Celtics Talk Weekly player of the game. But Charles Bassey, we were talking about it halfway through the game, but I think he became the lead, right? We were at, where should we put him in the segments, right? He became the lead, right? We can't bury the lead, because Charles Bassey today, 22 points, 13 rebounds, 4 of them offensive rebounds, 8 of 12 from the floor, made it to the free throw line 6 times, and made all 6 of his free throws. There, you see it up on screen, right? And he's a plus 15, 3 blocks, 2 steals, and you know how we term it here, stocks. 5 stocks on the day for Charles Bassey, and his second straight double-double, as you see it there on the screen from Justin Turpin. But Charles Bassey is undoubtedly a player who could receive, at the very least, a training camp invite for the Celtics. And within that scenario, Bassey will definitely own a chance to grab a two-way spot or even a standard roster spot, given the Celtics' current situation at big. When you look at the big man rotation, we've been talking about it ad nauseum. You have Keita, Tillman, Garza, Amari Williams. Charles Bassey may own a better resume than all of those guys, every single one of them, and he's actually putting up a better summer league resume than all those guys, and that's another conversation. But you look at Charles Bassey and the type of big he actually is. He has great timing as a big man. He's a very effective shot blocker, provides a lot of shot deterrence around the rim. Very athletic, lengthy, long arms. And he's just very strong. You see, he's a very stout player, just very stout out there within his frame, right? He's not one of those players who look a little awkward moving out there on the floor. He looks very firm in how he moves. He has quick verticality, very strong finishing. The one thing I do question about Charles Bassey is his ability to actually defend on the perimeter. His feet are a little slow, but that athleticism is there. And you can see out there he plays very hard, so you can tell some of the work ethic might be there behind the scenes. And we talked about it the other day. He's a second round pick who's still around. He was picked by the Philadelphia 76ers. They wanted Charles Bassey, and then once they were done with him, the San Antonio Spurs wanted Charles Bassey and kept him around on the roster for 3 years, and now the Celtics bring him in essentially off the street. It feels like it's off the street. He wasn't even on the roster a week ago, and then we found out basically during game one against the Grizzlies. Oh, there he is. There he is. Do we have, and that'll be a pretty good story in time if Bassey does become something with the Celtics later on down the line. We'll tell the story of he wasn't even on the summer league roster and he was just added on at the last second. But that's where we are with Charles Bassey. And I think at this point, now I understand Miles Norris, they sat him today, which when you sit guys, you think, okay, maybe they might be preserving them because they want to keep him around, right? Miles Norris, he's on a 2-year, two-way deal, but I wouldn't deny Charles Bassey owns a chance to certainly grab a two-way deal or even a standard spot right now. Nothing is solidified here. I don't. Miles Norris, even Shulga and Amari Williams, nothing is solidified. There have been rumors about those guys signing two-way deals, but I do not believe it's official yet.
That
so
is usually the case.
I'm just saying.
That is usually the case when it comes to second round picks. Is they are the general consensus is they start on that that 2-year or two-way deal because of the pure fact of if you send them down to the G League, you have absolutely no protection or rights to keep them on your roster. So usually those guys are the secured two-way spots. However, the NBA allows 3 two-way contracts, and Miles Norris is the other one that fills the 18 out of 18 spots on the Celtics roster. So Miles Norris, it could be a potential person that could lose his job to one of these players that he is playing on the same team as right now.
I'm going to point the finger somewhere else. Can we just like drop Tillman and pick up Bassey? Because like, quite frankly, I'm not convinced if you put Tillman out there in the summer league that he's doing this. I'm just not.
No, yeah. Think about the two players' athleticism and agility and rebounding skills. Like I want a player. That's the most fascinating thing about Bassey is just his forceful rebounding. I'm thinking Keita, Bassey, if you have, and they're fairly similar to the point where you have two great rebounders as those two bigs. You have Luka Garza, who I think is a little less inclined to rebound the basketball, but more of a scorer.
Yeah.
More of a scorer. And Tillman, I think Tillman, is he a personality guy behind the scenes? Because ability wise, 7 minutes per game and to rationalize at the press conference, right? We'll have a whole live on it later on in time, but to rationalize at the press conference, Brad Stevens rationalized Tillman. Hey, he's more of a 4, but he can play as a big man, and we can kind of rope him in, and we'll do it by committee, right? He played 7 minutes per game last year. Why? And we needed him throughout the season.
In those 7 minutes, they were ugly. Like, can we just say it? Like, he looked uncomfortable. He did not look like he knew his role. And I think it was a shame because coming into the year, I remember talking to you, Franco, preseason when you dropped the Peyton Pritchard. The question was, who are you most excited to watch? Right? He dropped Peyton Pritchard, class. I dropped Xavier Tillman and some booze. Let's get the booze because, like, my thought, right? You bring over a guy mid-season. He's got to get acclimated. It's a little weird. You're living out of a hotel. The Pritchard is back. The Peyton Pritchard. but you got to get like acclimated. And I was expecting to see a polished Tillman. You didn't. Bassi is clearly a more athletic, versatile player that I think you could have on your roster. And I look at players who are rostered for the Celtics, and I'm like, why waste a two-way spot, right? Like, we know the outcome of at least two players, Xavier Tillman and JD Davison, right? Like, let's not like beat around the bush. Let's just make the swap. And I'm interested, guys, in my thought right now, which like my question is kind of, is Bassi's 2025's Lonnie Walker? Like, is that where we're at, where it's like he's going to ball and it's going to be like, oh, this is what we need. This is what we need. And then the Celtics go elsewhere.
Well, let's see. Bassi, I'm looking at the age right now. Bassi is 24 years old, but by the time the season starts, he'll be 25. So he'll be 25. He'll be turning 25 the first week of the season. So Xavier Tillman, on the other hand, his age, right? Because people like to think, oh, Xavier Tillman, the veteran, he's only 26.
Yeah,
Xavier Tillman is 26. He'll be 25 halfway through the season on January 12th. But Xavier Tillman and Charles Bassi, that's the thing about Xavier Tillman is I feel as if there might be something behind the scenes that we don't see from his personality that might uplift other guys or might uplift a coaching staff, something of that nature with Xavier Tillman. But looking at the ages and the ability out on the floor, it is like calling a spade a spade. It's going, look, this is exactly what we have on the roster right now. This is the ability. The one thing I do question about Bassi, and in relevance with these other bigs, why is he playing in Summer League? And Garza and even Minot and none of these other guys. And Bassi, he's been in the league for 4 years. All right, Garza's been in the league for 4 years. Minot's been in the league for 3 years. Now, given those two players just signed minimum contracts with the Celtics, so there might be a little bit more status involved in those two players. But why is Bassi sitting here playing in the Summer League? I understand Xavier Tillman, he's made a finals run. He's been on a finals team. He's been around the block a little bit more. But why exactly why did the Celtics bring Charles Bassi in to their Summer League team?
Right.
Because I understand he is still a player and he's proved himself, but Luka Garza is, but Josh Minot is as well. And they have just as much experience. And we're seeing from Bassi in the Summer League. Maybe it just took this Summer League performance for us to realize that, or the Celtics organization to realize this, where Rob, you already mentioned it, he's just dominating the field right now. He looks like one of those players who shouldn't be here. Where you're going, this is more of an NBA level player. He's absolutely
like when
dominating the field of Summer League. And it's like varsity player on a JV squad or playing another JV squad. That's what Charles Bassi looks like out on the floor. And this is one of the craziest developments we've had in Summer League, Celtics Summer League. I mean, back to 2019? The 2019 squad was pretty crazy. You had Max Strus, Devontae Green, and that year you had Grant Williams and Taco Fall and Carson Edwards. I mean, that was a crazy Summer League squad. But all of a sudden, this Summer League squad, because of the addition to, of course, Tremont Waters, can't forget him, and you got 2019. No, Jabari Burton, Kareem Allen. Romeo was on 2019 squad too. But he didn't play. He didn't play. I don't believe.
You're right.
His wrist. But regardless, this Celtics Summer League squad, it is kind of a squad I look at right now and go, these guys could be something in the future. And it's another storyline in Summer League that it's being created right now in Charles Bassi. I don't think, the league is not looking at this necessarily, but this is where we mentioned, in the Celtics Nation Rise podcast, we were talking about, Griffin and I were talking about how Summer League can be the start and the spark to some of these guys' careers. That kind of ignites their career as they go into the future. It feels like Charles Bassi slots into that category right now for the Celtics, where we're looking at him as a legitimate guy later on down the line. And I'm not saying, maybe we're going a little bit too far. I'm not saying he's going to start or receive major minutes on the Celtics, but I could see him maybe being on the roster. Like, I know people are saying two-way, but Garza and Minot, they're both on the roster, and it doesn't seem as if the offseason's over. I don't believe the Celtics are going into the offseason the regular season with all 15 roster spots filled. With that in mind, there may be a standard spot out there for Bassey to grab, and it's possible that we do see him on the roster because what his ability has been at the summer league circuit. You have to consider that the Celtics need that on the roster next season, given the situation at big. The situation at big
Yes,
is dire
yes,
for the
yes.
Celtics.
And that's for me, that's kind of like you say, we're not sure what Bassey's role could be, right? But for me, it's like if you compare resumes, right? It's like, okay, well, like you look at our rotation, right? Our big man rotation really is Neemias Queta, Luka Garza, and Xavier Tillman, right? Amari Williams, you figure he's going to be a two-way. He's probably not going to see much floor time, at least for the first half of the year. He'll probably be spending a majority of his time down in Maine his rookie year. So you got those three guys. It's like, okay, let's kind of do a side-by-side comparison. It's like Charles Bassey versus Xavier Tillman. Well, maybe the Xavier Tillman in his role in Memphis gets the upper hand, but what's not what we've seen here in Boston. Is there a chance that changes? Sure. But again, this is a guy we're talking about. Seamus, you said he played 7 minutes last year, and he looked pretty horrid in each and every minute of those 7 minutes. There was never a time that Tillman checked in, and you're like, oh, here we go. Let's get the Tillman juice going, right? So there's that. Garza.
No, nobody was drinking the Tillman juice.
No one was drinking the Tillman juice. And then you look at Garza, and Garza's like kind of a question mark where Bassey's kind of been more involved in NBA basketball already, but Garza gives you that offensive side, right? Sure. But then it's like, for me, it's like, okay, it's like Neemias or Bassey. That's the conversation. I think Bassey is a more serviceable player than both Garza and Tillman. So it's like, are we actually looking at a guy here on our summer league roster that is competing with the rostered starting center on the Celtics right now? It's like, to me, that's what it boils down to. Yeah, and it's a problem. It's a real problem.
What a crazy decline we've seen. We literally went from Porzingis, Al Horford, Luke Cornett to, wow, Charles Bassey in the summer league could start with the Celtics next year.
Yeah, he's coming off the bench in our summer league, and this is a guy that you could go toe-to-toe with our starting big man right now. I love Nimi. I think Nimi could be a hell of a piece for Boston moving forward, right? I have faith in Neemias Queta, no doubt about it. But again, we're in a conversation right now about a backup big man coming into the summer league, potentially maybe outclassing your starting center. And you're the boss. Like, you know what I'm saying? It's like, I think there is conversation where you bring Bassey in and maybe he's at least your second big off the bench, right? Or maybe he's your big off the bench. Like, I do believe there's a conversation for that if he keeps doing this, right? And he's 20, like, there, he's going to be 25. He's seen around, like, he's played 15 minutes a game on other teams. Like, he's been in the league. He's performed well. The tools are there, right? You talk, like, it's there. And unfortunately, the harsh reality is pretty ugly that we're having this conversation, but we still got to have it.
Over under, Charles Bassey starts 1 game with the Celtics this year.
Oh, I like that. Over.
I think I like the over. I mean, it pushes half. We'll do a half because, it'll push with the 1. So
you're right, the 0.5. But like, and again, he fits the mold of Brad Stevens, right? It's like, you look at we talked about this last show. You looked at the guys Brad's gone for. They are players that are kind of question marks, right? Players that haven't really had an opportunity to break through. They could break through, they could be bust, but Bassey, in my eyes, kind of fits that, where it's like he's kind of been capped at 12 minutes a game in the league. He's never really gotten an opportunity to give you more, and he's been efficient in those 12 minutes. So it's like, for me, if I'm Brad, I give up on Tillman. I just do. I go another route. I think Bassey is more athletic. I think he gives you more rebounding upside. I think his finishing around the rim is strong and aggressive, and I think you're missing that when you lose Luke Cornett, because as much as I love Neemias, there are times where he goes up a little soft, and his touch around the rim is solid, but it's up and down. It's a little shaky, and I think Bassey gives you something. I'm sorry, I can't say without laughing a little bit. I think Bassey gives you something off the bench potentially that you need. Your center rotation is that bad. I will say this. I'll preface this. Unless Brad again isn't done and plans to make a move using Simons or Niang, which could very much so happen. We'll see.
Well, can we? I think that's a good way to transition, because we actually heard him talking about this during today's game, and was one thing that has really concerned me is the sentence that that I am comfortable with this roster and the 15
But
players
he
they have
has. I think he has to say that, Franco. Like, I don't think he can't not say that.
I think you can say that. The only thing that he hasn't followed that up with what you usually have is, however, we are consistently trying to improve and add to this. That is one thing that is kind of sounded a little bit closed off, is the fact that he could possibly be looking at this roster and be saying that this is it. When I look at this roster and I'm like, the most not an like most obvious move, almost like any person would do it, is you get rid of Hauser for a big man, right?
There's the segue, Franco, right there into the Hauser, into the Shireman conversation. There it is, right there. So where are you at with Shireman?
Because when I look at Shireman, and you can tie all three of the Celtics, four if you want to include Minot, all four of the Celtics young wings that they have on this roster. You look at Baylor Shireman, who has shown that he is capable of being an offensive scorer, let alone being able to stretch the floor, be a 3-point scorer, hitting a shot from the logo off the dribble tonight, which is pretty good sign to see out of a player that is coming up within your rotation. Jordan Walsh also being able to perform is a good sign as well. And you look at Hugo Gonzalez. You look at those four guys. If you want to build something by committee, make it your wing depth on the bench. That is where you should be. Because you should have Shireman, Walsh, and Gonzalez and Minot all battling for those 15, 20 minutes a game that Hauser was receiving, because I feel just as capable of one of four of those guys being able to step up and being able to fill in the production that Sam Hauser did, if not all four of them, proving that they are a more viable option, just because of the pure fact of salary and the dire need at center, and the fact that they are still over the second tax apron.
I'm afraid.
Because Brad would still fail. Like, Brad would technically, if he went into the next year's roster with his to-do list, which was to get under the second apron, is you got to just be able. He didn't accomplish the number one goal, which is avoiding that repeater tax. He still needs to make a move.
Is that the number one goal?
Well,
Brad
he said it is a top priority. However, the repeater tax.
No, he said it was not a top priority.
He said it was a priority.
Well, let's see. He
pull up the transcript.
All right, so let's get down to it. Well, he was asked 19 questions. First of all, he said there's value in the. Well, he was asked, how driven are you by possibly getting out of the luxury tax? How much does that weigh in on your decisions made?
Well,
he said there's value in those things, obviously, and you weigh those values, and the people at the top ultimately have to make the decisions. However, it's been pretty clear from the get-go. Bill has been pretty clear from the get-go that he wants to make sure we're prioritizing basketball assets and the ability to retool this thing at the highest level that we can. And then he was asked again by John Corrales. He was asked, is resetting the repeater tax not a priority? Well, that wasn't the explicit question, but that's basically what the question was. And he said there's benefits to that, but it is not the priority. The priority is continuing to make sure we have our future first and all the things later on that are in play for us, that's so that we can use those things to build in the future. So that's what Brad said about the repeater tax and it being a priority or not being a priority.
Are the Celtics? I could be wrong here, but the Celtics, they are out of the second apron by $3 million, correct? The second is 210. Their roster 207.
I think
Well,
they're over it by.
We don't know what the exact salary numbers are for Minot and Garza yet. It's why obviously we've heard the reports, but those are just reports. Those aren't actual tangible in the book type of thing.
So are we assuming they're over?
I'm assuming they're over because that's what I've heard is with those two signings, they've been kicked over the second apron, which from that standpoint, you'd think they're going to get up. They part of the forget the luxury tax. Like the luxury tax is still
the luxury
pretty far
tax
away.
is one thing, but the second apron is the thing that
is the priority. That is the primary goal is getting under that first.
Yeah, the second apron. If you can get under the tax apron, that's just the cherry on top.
Right. Okay.
Which is going to be pretty hard to do without gutting the roster even further than where it's at right now, which is.
Well, I'm actually. I know this is off topic, but I'm looking at the payroll, and in 29-20, and again, this is off topic, sorry, but 28-29, Celtics their estimated payroll is $184 million, which is pretty close to that luxury tax line. And I want you guys to guess how many rostered players they have under contract.
Is that
in 29-30?
28-29.
28-29.
I think they still have a starting 5. I still think they have 5.
No, I'm gonna say we have either 2 or 3.
We do have 5. We only have 5. Think about that. Okay. We only have 5 guys rostered, and our payroll is almost at the luxury tax. Again, this is a different. I mean, we could record a whole live stream about the Celtics and their contractual issues, in which I just think the truth is that I think this is a bigger problem than fans are making it out to be. But yeah, I mean, that's where we're at. Like there has to be more moves, and to kind of tying it back to the summer league here for me is that like that's why this is important. That's why when you look at Shireman, that's when you look at Bassi, when you look at Amari, when you look at Hugo, you look at all these guys, Walsh. There's a lot of pressure within the Celtics organization for these guys to work out, because I think ideally they're hoping these guys do work out so there can be dumps, so they can dump guys like Niang or dump a guy like how. Like I do believe that is in their envision, because they need to get cheap on the back end and the bench rotation. They can't afford to pay. They don't have the wiggle room for it. And yeah, like that's for me where where it ties into like, oh, where does it tie in for the summer league? It's right there. They're kind of in tax hell right now, and the only way you can really kind of finesse it, which short term, is really hoping these cheap young guys pan out the way you can, so you can at least give yourself more time.
Welcome back to the show, Griffin. I do want to add some context to the 28-29 team potentially with 5 players. So that team would include, first of all, that you said the salary number was what, Rob, on that team?
184,895,000. So essentially 185 flat.
So basically 185,000, that would be the payroll of that team. In 28-29, the luxury tax is projected to be $221 million. So
makes me feel a lot better. Thank you for that.
Right. So that always, things always go up over time. That being said, its projection for 3 seasons could come in a lot lower, could come in a lot higher. That's just what the projection is based on what we have today. So looking ahead into the future, there's obviously going to be some wiggle room, because that's how contracts are based too, where, contracts, they're in line with the uptick in salary, in the salary cap specifically over the next couple of years. But the conversation that the conversation that we're on right now when it comes to where the Celtics are in their payroll, I've questioned throughout the offseason. I go, what if the Celtics' new ownership, right? What if Bill Chisholm, what if he just doesn't care, right? Like, what if he just, what if he's Steve Ballmer? Okay, like the repeater tax, I'm thinking the repeater tax, here's my issue with the repeater tax, is if you get out of it this year, if you're the Celtics, right? If you get out of the repeater tax this year, well, the whole goal of getting out of it this year would be to also get out of it next year. So if you got out of it this year, it wouldn't reset the repeater tax because it's 3 out of 4 years. So essentially, next season, if you went back into the tax, that would still be 3 out of 4 years because the Celtics were just in the repeater tax for the last 3 seasons. So the way they would need to reset it is getting out of it this season and then getting out of it in 26-27. But the problem with that is logically in 26-27, why would the Celtics be looking to get out of the luxury tax and looking to get out of the repeater tax cycle when Jason Tatum is coming back into the lineup? Now you could use this next season and say, well, the Celtics, there's this opportunity with Tatum out of the lineup where definitively, okay, probably not winning the championship next year. This is a year where we can reset it. But then the Celtics could look big picture and go, okay, well, in the year Tatum comes back, maybe it's also a step back year and we're actually retooling for a 27-28 run. That's possible with the Celtics, and that's, I would say, fairly realistic when it comes to how this team might need to look at the future, because it's not necessarily we're resetting for one season. It's not always like, say, throughout the league, right? When you look at young teams, right, specifically, it's not as if, one season the Spurs are going to build a title contending team. They're looking at consistent progression years down the line. It's possible the Celtics are looking at the situation, the front office, the ownership, everybody involved. It's possible they're looking at the situation going, well, maybe the next 2 seasons we're dipping under that tax. And then 2 years from now, then we're going for the championship yet again and retooling our roster for that moment. That's a dangerous scenario, I'll say, for the Celtics, considering you don't know how many prime years of Tatum Brown and Derek White and everybody on the roster. You don't know the prime years of specifically the core guys, right? Tatum, Brown, White, and Pritchard, those 4 guys, and even Anthony Simons. I mean, Anthony Simons, if he's around, he's a core guy, but let's face it, he may be moved before the end of next season. Say he's not moved during the summer. He could be moved before the end of next season at the trade deadline. We never know. But as long as he's with the team, he's a core piece. 26 years old. I don't fear any regression in him or Pritchard anytime soon, but you don't know how many years you're getting with these guys regardless. And that would be a little bit dangerous of a scenario for the Celtics to get themselves involved in, is planning multiple years down the line. But that could be what the Celtics are looking at when it comes to this repeater tax, because they're not only going to have to get out of the repeater tax, or out of the luxury tax rather, this season to disregard that repeater tax. It's going to have to be next season too, when Jason Tatum comes back in the lineup. And that just logically doesn't make sense for the Celtics, but it might be something the team has to do. But that's where I also started this and asked the question of, do the Celtics even care? What if Bill Chisholm took over the team? The big tech giant, Bill Chisholm. What if he takes over the team and just doesn't care, like Steve Ballmer? Steve Ballmer doesn't care. He's pay it every year. The amount of money he's making from Microsoft covers it every single year. Is that going to be the same for Bill Chisholm? And does the repeater tax even matter? Now, I would have to go do a little bit more studying on the repeater tax real quick to know exactly what the implications are on that. They're not as severe as the second apron, but it's definitely something implemented within the league that teams don't want to deal with. And it makes it harder for teams to spend and win championships later on down the line.
I also think an important dynamic here with that concept and kind of idea and proposition, I guess, is what does Tatum look like and I think this is kind of why Brad is taking his time, right? If you're in the All-Star break and Tatum is like, you're looking at him and it's like, you could see, because you don't know, right? Odds are Tatum's probably going to miss the whole year, right? But say you're at the All-Star break and you're like, okay, you could get Tatum back, right? That sets your timeline way differently, because now you're not getting the grace period of 2026, 27, where you're getting Tatum back. And it's like you have these 20 games, you're trying to implement him back into the roster again. You're doing that a year prior and he has an off season. So it's definitely different. And I do think kind of you could potentially see Boston roll out with kind of a funky lineup this regular season, and then stuff happens at the deadline that they start addressing with some of these issues, where they have a better idea of a timeline for Tatum, right? Because if at the deadline approaches and you're like, okay, Tatum could be back in a month and a half, or Tatum, we know, all right, Tatum's done for the year, right? It's the deadline, we know Tatum's out. Then I think Boston's like, okay, now we can make for sure moves, right? We know this, we know that. So I just think there's a lot of uncertainty still around this team and around the future, that it's hard to predict just what to do because they don't know yet.
So first of all, the repeater tax, just reading about it here, I'm wondering, I'm just thinking ahead, right? I'm trying to innovate for teams. I'm thinking, so basically what the repeater tax does is there's specific brackets that an ownership group pays for every dollar a team goes over the luxury tax line, right? So say, the first bracket starts at $1.50, and then the second bracket starts at $2.50, and then it's just it's the extra tax rate added onto every dollar a team goes over the luxury tax line. Essentially, a repeater tax is just an increased payment, so an increased tax. So essentially, the bracket, instead of starting at $1.50 for every dollar that a team goes over the luxury tax line, it starts at $2.50. So that's the implication of the repeater tax. But what I wonder is, if you're a team potentially running into that issue, couldn't you just plan for the future of knowing, okay, this is going to be our tax rate, our bracket that we're going to be involved in? Say, because there are definitive savings that come along with being a team that's not enacting the repeater tax every single year, not triggering the repeater tax every single year. There are cost-cutting benefits to doing that with the ownership's actual pockets, right? You talk about tangible, real-life money the ownership group is paying towards the luxury tax bill. There's a world where, yes, you pay a smaller rate if you're not in the repeater tax cycle. But how much does that matter if you're planning ahead and expecting the fact you're going to pay more, right? Say, it's like going to the grocery store, right? And knowing, okay, well, at these grocery stores over here, if we travel 30 miles, it's going to be $1. But if we go to the local market, it's going to be $2. Well, you still pay that $2 at the local market because you go, we don't want to go 30 minutes. We want to go to the local market. That's what could happen with the Celtics, where they go, well, we don't want to get rid of our players to pay a lower rate. We'll just keep the rate we have right now, and we'll plan ahead for that. And obviously that will hamper teams from building into the future, because the longer you go into the luxury tax, the more you're paying, compared to a team that's not paying that repeater tax. But I do wonder if the Celtics even care about that, if they can innovate and plan ahead of that. There's also another note in here that the repeater tax rates will increase for the 25-26 season. So just in time for the Celtics to be in the situation, right? Just the league's throwing everything at against the Celtics and at the Celtics to potentially sway them off the path of championships. I wonder what the Celtics, what would this team have looked like 10 years ago when all this nonsense didn't exist?
It would look at the Golden State Warriors. That's what it would look like, right? That's exactly what
it did for one season, right? We were all on it for one season. We're like, wow, this team is as good as Golden State. They could go on this run. And then a year later, it's like, no Holiday, no Porzingis, nobody's around. They did it for 1 year. The Thunder basically had a better season. It's like,
time changes quick on you. But I want to pivot here a little bit, back over to the Celtics Summer League side of things, and more importantly, Jordan Walsh. It's time to have a Jordan Walsh conversation, guys. It just is. So I guess the question is, really, frankly, just point blank, do we have faith in Walsh? Is this guy an NBA caliber player? Because honestly, if I'm being frank with you, as we just lose Griffin randomly, there he is. If I'm being frank with you, I don't think he is. I think these first two, and I'm all ears. I would love if one of you two could convince me otherwise. Griffin, I'm looking at you. But Seamus, maybe we're back in the Luke Cornett territory. This could totally be Luke Cornett territory.
No, I think we're binding together on the same team right now, and Griffin is going to be on the other side. We're taking the risk. All right, we're taking the risk.
I am. I'm gonna, because it's ugly. It doesn't look like I want to see. He got to the free throw line 11 times today, and maybe that's a positive. But offensively, it was a guy that you knew it was going to be rough. His game needed polish. His offensive game needed to be polished. Here we are in year 2 Summer League. This is where, again, you're supposed to look like the NBA guy, the guy that's seen minutes, and he looks kind of like that same old rookie we saw out of Jordan Walsh in that Summer League just 2 years ago.
Well, he's supposed to look like Bassey. I feel like that's what it is. Charles Bassey was supposed to be Jordan Walsh. Like, that's what Jordan Walsh is supposed to be. And you look at that performance, and it's like, all right, I'm scratching my head. And I was just doing my recap for Celtics Nation Rise, and I'm like,
go check that out if you aren't, by the way.
Yeah, go check it out after this. After post game, go over to Celtics Nation Rise and check out the recap. But I was even scratching my head while I'm reading it, and I'm like, oh, shot 25% from the field. Because I asked the same question to myself, Rob, back in, what was it, October, when the season gets started, around then. Yeah, I was asking myself the same question because he looked very questionable, to say the least. But I look at Jordan Walsh, and I think this is a player who, you've seen the Celtics. They went with a strict amount of guys. You know, obviously their starting 5 last year, and then coming off the bench, you have obviously Luke Cornett. You could go with Sam Hauser, and they have other guys. Walsh wasn't a guy that they really like snapped their heads and looked to, you know. This year, however, though, Walsh is gonna be that guy where they snap their heads and be like, hey, Walsh, you're in. Especially, he's going to be rotating a lot with George Niang. So you're going to look at that. But you look at this. Yes, it's going to be ugly at first. It's, of course, going to be ugly at first. But, again, in a retooling year where you're kind of forced to have minutes, Walsh, whether we like it or not, Walsh is going to be forced to have minutes this year.
No, he's not.
I say
no, he's not. No, he's not, because he might not even make the roster.
You don't think he makes the roster?
It's definitely possible he doesn't make the roster. This is the 3rd summer league in 7 fouls and 13 points, but 8 of 11, 2 of 10, and he doesn't necessarily look like an aggressor. I'll give him the leeway of a 21-year-old, right? He's 21 playing in his 3rd summer league. So sometimes that can skew the optics of, 3rd summer league, this is what we're getting. He's still 21. He could still be, look at Shireman as a rookie. And even right now, he's 24 playing in summer league. Bassey's 24 playing. So playing with guys who are a little older than him here, even on the roster. But I'm not convinced he makes the roster because he's not a crucial player. Last year he showed, he's not going to be now last year was harder to break the rotation, but even right now at Summer League, when you shoot 2 of 10, you're not making a prime impact on the floor. He's going to have to prove himself over the back end players on the roster.
Again, I'm going to say this because I said this about Baylor Shireman last game. This is a bad performance that we need to look past. Because I feel like that. No,
Why?
I'm saying this.
Why?
Because he could still.
We need to look past this bad performance because of what reason?
Because he could still prove himself. Like Baylor Shireman, I was not impressed with what Baylor Shireman did last game. I'm gonna say it flat out. I was annoyed with what Baylor Shireman did last game.
Well, what, Griffin?
However, Shireman redeemed himself today. Did you guys put Shireman up there?
He shot 1 of 7 from 3 today. He shot 2 of 14 in game 1. And look, Shireman, there are good things to Shireman, but can I say this about Shireman real quick? I know we're on a Jordan Walsh tangent, but I'm a little afraid, all right, that Shireman is our next Sam Hauser in terms of, look, he has one definitive offensive skill that we really like, and that to me is Shireman's passing and his IQ and his just know-how with the ball. But defensively, it is an absolute mess at times. And he is the one weak link on this team. He's the one weak link on this team.
I will say, when it matters most, Shireman is going to leave it out there. And I'm saying that because I'm going to quote to a time last year where you guys remember it. Remember when he slid across the court? Like his hustle, he's a hustle player, and I'm saying that because I saw him in Maine. Walsh, can I say that? No, but Baylor Shireman is a hustle player.
Well, I want to say this though, but I think this is important. Let's even just put aside the summer league, right? Like let's just look at their NBA resume so far. I think Shireman impressed me more than Walsh has in 2 years in that 2-week span where we got the Shireman train. Like I think 100%. With Walsh, right? It's tough for me at this point with Jordan Walsh to just put aside these bad games because you've been around 2 years of a very talented roster. You've stepped into NBA games. You've done the whole G League experience, right? You have been in the presence of a forward room of Jaylen Brown.
Larry O'Brien trophy.
You've held the Larry O'Brien trophy. You have seen NBA finals in like not minutes, but action. You've been there. And for me, it's still not there, right? So it's like, if I'm Brad Stevens, I'm the Boston Celtics, I have to look at Jordan Walsh and think, realistically, is this a player we can go to? I don't think it is. I think it's very similar to the Aaron Nesmith situation, where if it works out, it just won't be in Boston. Like, it is ugly right now from Jordan Walsh, and Walsh was supposed to be the player on this team where he played 2 games and they said, Walsh, you're good. Like, we're gonna like, you don't need any more summer league action. Like, yes, he is only 21, but he has been around too much NBA caliber basketball, high level basketball at that, to just be doing this at this stage. So, like, I'm sorry, that's what it is with Jordan Walsh. Let's not sugarcoat it for anything else.
I'm gonna say 2 more things on Walsh. Then I'm gonna say this. Number 1, next game he plays is a big prove it game then for Walsh, because he needs to make up for the slack.
Next 3 games.
Next 3 games, yes. However, if he goes out, I'm not saying he will, but say he goes out and drops like a 30 piece. I'm not saying he will. Definitely not saying he will, because he hasn't even shown that. He hasn't even shown that. But I'm saying with Walsh, he needs a big prove it game. He needs a couple prove it games for one. But my question for you guys is, all right, obviously there needs to be a lot more improvement in his game, but a guy I'm going to highlight too is George Niang. When he played a role on the Sixers, he was kind of a guy that came on the end of their bench, you know? If Walsh could develop, would you guys be fine if he was kind of an end of the bench player?
But
of course, but that's not happening. He's had many opportunities to do that. And what's terrible is he is 21, and you think, well, there should be some still growth and development in his game coming. But at this point in time, I have to lean on the side of there has been a lot of NBA experience within Walsh in the past, whether it's been in preseason, whether it's been in the regular season, in past summer leagues. He's had his opportunities, and the opportunities, specifically what's always been hit at with Jordan Walsh and his main flaw is the offensive end of the floor. So can he put the ball on the floor? He is a classic, can you put the ball on the floor and actually do something with it guy? And the answer has been mostly no. It's been mostly no. He's an aggressive defender. He's pretty long. He has an NBA body, right? I get the vision of Jordan Walsh, right? But just the aggression, the ability to actually put the ball on the floor, do something with it. Even his shooting has been very streaky at times, and he's even a player where the shot looks pretty smooth, looks pretty silky, but it's always been in question, right? Can he actually hit it consistently? When he's hitting it, it looks great, but there are a lot of moments where he's just not hitting at that level, or at least hitting shots efficiently. And it's getting to a point where I think his Celtics career is very much in jeopardy, because yes, the Celtics are going to develop players and give players time, right? We've seen it with J.D. Davison. He's still on the roster to this day. But there has to be something along the way, little moments along the way where a team goes, this is why we want to keep this player around. There have been a lot of moments for Jordan Walsh to show why he's kept around, and the moments have been a little lackluster. They've been very lackluster. And even as a developmental project who were thinking, oh, well, we still want to keep this guy 21 years old, there are other 21-year-olds that we likely want to get in the building and potentially look at outside of Jordan Walsh. But then even furthermore, if he's taking up a standard roster spot, which to me, Jordan Walsh was thrown immediately onto the standard roster. He should have been a two-way guy. If you think about it, early on in his career, he wasn't. He was thrown into a standard roster spot. And ultimately, I look at the standard roster spot of his and go, is Jordan Walsh, is he actually meant for that spot? Right? Because if he's producing at a two-way rate, why is he taking up a standard spot for somebody who could produce at an NBA rate?
Well, I got more too. I'm sorry, Griffin. I got more to throw at you too. And I think this is, I'm not even fixated on the scoring aspect, right? Of what the summer league looks like. I think that's a flaw, but again, I want to preface this. Seamus, you said this last post-game show, and it was right on. The talent in a regular season game in the NBA is up here. The effort's down here, right? It flips. Sorry, I'm going to have to bring my mic up with me, right? It flips during the summer league, right? So Walsh has seen high-level skilled basketball, right? From all aspects of the game. This should be slow for him. This should be easy. This should be polished. This should be, if the shot's not falling, there's 6 assists. There's 8 rebounds. There's 2 steals. There's not these lazy, sloppy fouls and turnovers. Like, it should be for Jordan Walsh to see the level of basketball he has seen. Maybe you shoot one for 10 games happen, right? Every NBA, every basketball player is going to have a bad, inefficient couple games. You don't make shots sometimes, right? But the other things, the things that he's been in the practice facility seeing, the things he's seen on the floor in the NBA of an NBA player, what it looks like, right? This should be second nature to him. To be a plus on the floor there should be second nature to him. And I get his plus minus was technically a plus, so maybe I'm crazy, but it felt like he's kind of a negative right now.
I'm gonna say this though. In a retooling year where you're experimenting, if you're the Celtics, if you're letting Josh Minot be one of those players that you're gonna slide into that, I don't see why Jordan Walsh can't either. Jordan Walsh has played a lot less games in the NBA than Josh Minot. I just looked it up. Jordan Walsh at 61 games played and Josh Minot at 93. So if you're going to let Josh Minot be a sample for the Boston Celtics this year, I don't see why you can't give it to Walsh too. Now, say we get to trade deadline, and no, I'm just saying, say we get to trade deadline and Walsh is still playing like he's a traffic cone, playing like he's irrelevant, and Josh Minot is going to be the option. I feel like those are the 2 guys you could highlight, all right? Because I feel like if we're giving Josh Minot an opportunity, why not let Jordan Walsh get an opportunity? Because let's face it, you got and Seamus, I understand your frustration with Walsh, but Brad Stevens, if he's on a regular contract, Brad Stevens, I do not see a world where he cuts Walsh. I do not see Walsh not being on our roster going into the
at least
season.
traded for
salary.
If he's traded, all right. If he's traded, yeah, but not. I don't see them cutting him. But
can I jump in on why Jordan Walsh is still on this team? Why JD Davison is still on this team? It is. Someone has to be lying here because it's money. It's finance. When you are bringing in a guy of Jordan Walsh or J.D. Davison's level, when you pay them on that rookie deal, it is a less impactful minimum deal than if you were signing Al Horford to a minimum deal, which would, I believe, be around 3.6. Right now, if you were to get someone on a veteran minimum, which the Celtics have been saying that this has nothing, that the roster construction has nothing to do with what they're going for financially, and like these players are going to stay on this roster and they're going to be utilized.
I'm sorry.
No, they're going to be
they're going to be utilized, and I see the longer that they are on good contracts, it means that they are more likely to stick around. The player that is just like a big red flag waving, the school bully taped it, trade me to the back of his shirt, is Sam Hauser.
Yeah.
Like,
please,
because when you have the young, as I said earlier on in the show, when you have this many young wings behind a player, there needs to be those minutes for them to feast and compete over. And Sam Hauser making $10 million over the next 4 years. Actually, that will go up. Right now, he is making $10 million. It'll probably
12.
It'll probably reach the point of 12, right?
Yeah, me just 12
by the year. Year 2028 or whatever it is, and it is not going to be worth that. So moving on from those guys, I'd rather have Jordan Walsh stick around and battle through just because of the financial situation than having Sam Hauser stand over those guys and limit them to having these competitions at practice rather than being able to, who knows, maybe Hugo is having a hot month compared to Minot, Walsh, and Shireman, then Hugo can take on those minutes, and there's no real limitation to how that fluctuates. As we've been saying about the center room, it's a center room, like it's going to be a big man room by community or by committee. That's how the wing should be operated because the Celtics have a way more of a surplus and less of a need at wing than they do at other positions. So that's why Jordan Walsh is still on this team. And I still think the fact that he's only making $2.2 million this year and I believe next year, if I'm not mistaken, is the main reason why the Celtics are going to be keeping him around. And until maybe a trade pops up where numbers need to match up and a team, let's say, has interest in Sam or Jordan Walsh and wants him in as that extra asset instead of a second round pick here or there, then Jordan Walsh is more than likely out the door. But other than a situation like that, I think Jordan Walsh is going to probably be on this roster for until a trade scenario makes sense and where a team could potentially be interested in taking him on.
Well, can I say to that too? And I agree with that completely. But I also feel like this. Yes, 61 games is quite a bit of games, but that's also garbage time too. I mean, let's be honest, and you guys know it too. He's going to be thrown into the fire many times this season just because the fact of what the Celtics are. He's going to be thrown into the fire, and that will really be the true testament. You know, obviously, Summer League, he should be dominating and everything. Yes, he should be. But the real test, and it's going to happen this year if he's still on the team, if there isn't a trade that goes down where they were like, all right, we'll rather take Walsh than a second-round pick. If he's thrown into the fire this year, this is the year where he could blossom into something. And it's like, all right, if he's getting those minutes, however, I'm going to agree with you, Rob and Seamus. I have not liked what Walsh has done for the Celtics. He hasn't had a lot to prove, but this is the year where he needs to prove something. And I will even go as far as to say this. I went to the main Celtics playoff game, and he was trash there too. And I'm like, this is a guy where you bring down, and he should be dominating. He should be a reason why you're winning. And he only had like 13 points and shot like shit. Like he was terrible in it. So I agree with you guys, and there's a lot of frustration with me and Walsh. However, this is a guy who he's going to be on the team, and he's going to be thrown into the fire, and he's either going to have to prove it this year or it's out the door for Walsh. And I will say this is his last testing year, but it's not going to be – I agree, but he's going to be on the team. He is. And he's going to be thrown into the fire, and if he doesn't execute there, he's out of the picture. And I'm going to say same – I feel like they're trusting Minot a little bit. I feel like Minot will have the whole year to be like kind of a test this year. But Walsh, I feel like his deadline is maybe trade deadline if he's not producing or earlier. But if he's not producing, then it's
Griffin, I'm gonna stop both of you guys right there when it comes to Jordan Walsh getting thrown into the fire next season. I'm gonna read some contract notes here from both Jordan Walsh and JD Davison. Number one, Jordan Walsh, $200,000 of his contract this upcoming season is fully guaranteed, and his contract becomes fully guaranteed on opening night, which essentially means for Jordan Walsh, your tryout period is right now, training camp, and the preseason. All right, if Jordan Walsh does not show out in any one of those moments, his contract is not fully guaranteed until opening night. You could 100% see Jordan Walsh waived before opening night. It's completely plausible Jordan Walsh is let go by the Celtics by opening night. completely plausible considering his
just don't
guarantee
see
date.
it.
But JD Davison is also another contract you could see waived before opening night because his guaranteed date is not until January 10th. So he becomes a guy where training camp, preseason, but also the first half of the season maybe is that tryout period, could be waived before January 10th. Or if the Celtics keep him for a little bit longer, we saw in the past with Jaden Springer, salary dump JD Davison to a team that can actually absorb his contract. Could be the same with Jordan Walsh as well. But I'm just going to point out that neither of JD Davison or Jordan Walsh, and I'm bringing JD Davison into the conversation too because he's seen as a solidified guy, but he's really not. And those are the first two Brad Stevens draft picks. But neither of those guys, Walsh or JD Davison, are guaranteed on the Celtics roster past opening night, really. If you look at their guarantees, the Celtics could waive both Walsh and JD Davison. The Celtics could waive both Jordan Walsh and JD Davison, come up with 2 standard roster spots, and only pay a combined $200,000 to Jordan Walsh alone in dead money. That's nothing. $200,000, that's literally nothing. That's a pretty okay yearly salary for Jordan Walsh, maybe not considering all of the taxes and fees you pay to agents and whatnot. But the Celtics, if you look at Walsh and Davison, definitely 2 players I'm pinpointing on the standard roster right now. That's what matters too, is neither of those players, Walsh or Davison, have shown they can be standard roster guys, yet they're on the standard roster right now, which indicates to me the Celtics are, yes, using standard roster spots on those guys, but it's only to attain them in the short term. And the Celtics actually own the flexibility to get rid of those guys in the short term or even long term as well, and not pay a price for it whatsoever, and actually open up more flexibility for themselves when it comes to roster spots or even money. So Jordan Walsh, his tryout is very much right now. It's preseason, it's training camp. It could be just right now. I mean, we saw Gershon Yabusele in the past in 2019 Summer League. Yabu, that's the inspiring part of the Yabu story is Gershon Yabusele, where he is right now. The way he started his career was 2016, 2017, 2018, 2019 Summer League. Played in 4 Summer Leagues in a row, was drafted and stashed his first year, then eventually played with the Celtics in 17, 18, and 18, 19, but came out in 2019 Summer League, and he looked awful. Yabu looked absolutely unimpactful, and he was waived before the Celtics Summer League was even over. That is what's on the line here for a guy like Jordan Walsh. And I won't say JD Davison here because obviously he's not playing in Summer League. He's going to be a training camp guy. But considering too with JD Davison, what if there are other moves out there to be made with this roster? Is he somebody that could be on the chopping block later on in time? I do want to note that about their contracts because I think when you see these guys on the back end of a roster, yes, they look like enticing developmental projects, but they're second round picks. If you look at the hit rate of a second round pick, it's usually 1 or 2 guys every year. I mean, it's an extremely low hit rate on second round picks. And there's an abundance of players who are not only second round picks, but also undrafted out there, right? Where you could consider, oh, well, we want to bring this guy and we want to bring this young guy. And there's free agents all over the place. I mean, look at who the Celtics have pulled in over the years. Daniel Tice, Vincent Poirier, Brad Wanamaker from overseas. They're nearly 30 years old. I mean, we saw a guy tonight for the New York Knicks. He's a Japanese superstar. We saw at the end of the game, Yudai Boba, 29-year-old Japanese superstar. So players like that, where we don't even think about out in the universe, over in other leagues or even in the G League, that the Celtics could want to look at. And let's face it, they've had much time. The Celtics have had a lot of time to look at both Jordan Walsh and JD Davison to decipher whether they're actually worth something on this roster or not. And that's definitely a huge part of the Jordan Walsh conversation right now, and why his summer league actually means so much to the Celtics and himself. I mean, this is a big moment for Jordan Walsh, and I'm not writing in pen that he'll be on the Celtics roster next year and thrown into the fire. This might be the fire. It might be right now, and it's looking hot, and he's not looking too hot in it.
It is. I just want to finish off by saying this on to Jordan Walsh. These next 3 games are, I agree with you, Seamus, they're make or break. You can't do this again. You have to look polished. You have to look like an NBA player and a serviceable NBA player at that. Because, I do agree. I don't think it's guaranteed. He shows up. He shows up on opening night. Like I do believe that there is incentive to move on from Jordan Walsh. Can we pull up that picture? Because I'm looking at it right now. Of Celtics Summer League head coach.
Yes, we got the Matt Reynolds fit.
Matt Reynolds.
Let's go pull that up, because Matt Reynolds, I mean, my goodness, I'm really hoping this is not foreshadowing for more neon green into the future. But here's Matt Reynolds. Here we go, folks. Bam. Matt Reynolds. This is from game 1 too, against the Memphis Grizzlies.
We meant to show it you, but oh my God, look! Not only just the color green, but that's like
the pattern.
That's just something you show up to like an ugly sweater Christmas party, where it's like it's a kind of funky and goofy. I mean, I don't know. It's not.
We got to get some better. I gotta say, we got to get some better Summer League shirts out here. This one's okay. It's pretty audacious, but there are some nice summer patterns out there. Can we get some flowers, some palm trees, the desert, some sand? Can we get some of that going? Right? I mean, we've taken it to a new level now, because it used to be, oh, nice. Coaches at Summer League, they get to wear something other than a suit, right? But now coaches don't wear suits in the regular season. Therefore, Summer League, it's just goofy shirts. It just feels like it's goofy shirts now. But this is from game 1, Matt Reynolds. I wonder if this is sold anywhere. Celtics team shop, shout out, Celtics.com.
No, I want this picture on a
clearance at Marshalls.
I'd wear that shirt out on 18. I'd wear that golfing. I would. I think I'm sold on that. If you put that up, Celtics, you got at least one sale.
And I gotta give. Well, I'll say Justin's hat, I think, actually mixes well with the shirt. I'm sorry, Justin. I've how I feel about the neon green, the action green Celtics. I think normally I look at that hat and I go, it's absolutely horrendous and awful. But with this shirt, I think it would actually fit. I don't know if that was a compliment. I was like, wait a minute, is this a compliment? I have no idea. But it's the truth.
That is the truth. It is the truth. Well, guys, I wanted to thank you so much for joining us in on another installment of the Celtics Talk Weekly Postgame Show. I want to say this for all you guys watching right now. Come right back here after each and every final Summer League game. We have you covered for the entire Summer League. And again, if you haven't checked out the Celtics Nation Rise podcast hosted by Griffin, and Seamus is on there all the time as well, guys, go check that out, because they've been absolutely killing it and is a great watch. Again, guys, the Celtics, they tip off at 8 p.m. Eastern time tomorrow night, a little back-to-back in the Summer League in Vegas against the Miami Heat. Again, after the final buzzer sounds over there, head right back over here to the Celtics Talk Weekly YouTube channel. We will have you covered for the CTW Postgame Show. And if you're not already subscribed, hit that subscribe button and turn on post notifications, because you will get alerted every time we go live. Because again, Seamus has been killing the Celtics Talk Weekly lives. So again, that's important. You want to watch that. If you like what you see here, you're going to love that. Again, guys, final from the Summer League in Las Vegas, game 2, 94-81. The Boston Celtics starting off hot, 2-0 in the Summer League. Can they make it 3-0? We'll find out tomorrow night, guys. Until then, you know the drill. Go Celtics.